welcome to today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm your host, Michelle Graves, the original money lady for 36 years now, and committed to bringing you, my viewers, just unusual, extraordinary people who are in my industry or related to the field of money, wealth, just all kinds of things. And you know, one of the things I'm so deeply committed to is sustainability and green subjects. I'm committed to taking care of the earth, taking care of our planet, all that means, eating well, eating right. And so today I have a young woman, that is correct, a young woman who is an emerging mover and shaker in the world of green. And I met her at a green sustainability gathering where I actually was probably one of the oldest people in the group. And that is fine because I loved the energy of these young people, and I had an opportunity to get acquainted with this young lady, my next guest. And I think you'll find her insight and her perspective to be just extraordinary. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my next guest, and her name is Michelle L. Anderson, and she is the owner of Flourish Landscape and Interior Design, a green company. How are you, Michelle?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you so much.
I am so glad that you took time out to be on my show today, and for the next hour, I just want to get into your head and find out what makes you your world and what makes you the exciting young woman that I found you to be. Let's start with, give me a little bit of background about who you are.
Okay, well, it seems like, I've been doing the green thing for a while, and I have, and, I was raised in the forest in Virginia, so when it started to be time for me to pick a career, I just was really surprised that people weren't paying attention to nature when I chose design, and found that green design was a niche, that it was something aside from what was conventional. So I thought, well, this is just natural for me. And for 14 years, I've been studying that, starting with architecture, and then it really broadened my mind when I started to learn what permaculture was, and to deepen my knowledge about landscapes, and then to learn about toxic materials in our homes and environments. And it was just a wonderful realm of discovery, and I thought, I love this, I want to bring this to light. And after I graduated, and I had some really wonderful internships where I feel that I learned from some of the most amazing people that are in this field. So I had the wonderful opportunity to start my business beginning as a freelancer, and then about a year later, Flourish emerged. It became a real company, and I've been doing green design in landscapes and interiors ever since.
Well, let's go back, because 14 years is a long time. So you grew up in Virginia in a forest or farm environment?
Yeah, it was a rural town, and it was near Charlottesville, so I also had a chance to see the beautiful architecture that's in Charlottesville, the Monticello site, and just really made an impression. Just Virginia itself is really naturally beautiful.
Virginia is beautiful.
Yeah.
It is. The topography and just the plant life, beautiful state.
Absolutely. So I was immersed in that all the time. That was natural for me.
Okay, so you decided to get involved with architecture.
Yes.
That is so unusual. Did you feel odd as a female? Or were there other women that are architects? What's going on here?
Well, that's a great question. I really feel like I entered the field at a time when women are just flooding into the architecture field.
Really?
They really were.
That's so exciting.
It was so exciting. I started my program at DAP at UC, and I was happy and comfortable because it was just in any other academic environment. It was about half women at the time.
Really? In DAP?
Yes.
Viewers, DAP is Design, Architecture, and something.
Design, Art, Architecture, and Planning.
Planning, yes,
Yeah.
DAP, right. Prestigious school.
It is. So
Yes.
at the time I was in the program, they said that it was, the second greatest program in the nation.
It is. I mean, I remember being in Leadership Cincinnati, and Dean, oh, he's from India, Dean Chatterjee.
Chatterjee, yeah.
Yes, Dean Chatterjee was one of my peers. Awesome man.
Yeah, it's a really incredible experience, and it was noticeable that, the professors were mostly men. I remember
Huh.
3 women that taught me, but they're mostly men, and so it was that generational change that my generation, a lot more women are coming into design, and it was really exciting.
That is. So, what did you learn that was applicable to this emerging green society?
Well, I always felt that my program would be forward thinking, and at the time, design across the nation was really embracing the green scene. LEED, L-E-E-D, is one of the programs that nationally is a rating system for green buildings. That's one thing that started to emerge.
Okay, LEED, L-E-E-D. Okay.
Yeah, and the city of Cincinnati has embraced this program, and all the new
Really?
city buildings are LEED buildings now.
The city of Cincinnati has embraced LEED.
Yeah.
Where did that come out of? What department? Is that a mayoral piece, or is that a city manager piece, or where does that come?
I don't know, but they've been doing it for a little while, and there's also a program for residential homes that are LEED linked with a tax abatement, which is really attractive.
Really?
Yes.
Now, see, I didn't know that. So the city of Cincinnati will, in fact, all their buildings are now LEED compliant.
Every new building, especially public schools.
Are LEED. Now, what does this mean?
Well, it means that the architecture firms in Cincinnati, they all know about LEED. Most of them have now a LEED accredited professional in their office, which is fabulous. The awareness of what environmental friendly architecture is it's becoming normal. Over the last 10 years, I've seen it become normal. People know what it is. Certain sectors of the building industry are slower to catch on, but most architecture firms are embracing it.
So tell me, Michelle, what is it? What does it mean to be LEED compliant?
It's a lot more than people might think at first. It's not just saving energy. One of the most important takeaways that people don't realize is that it dwells on indoor air quality.
Huh.
Yeah.
Indoor air quality. Tell me more.
So studies say about 90% of our time is spent indoors.
That's probably correct.
In this temperate climate. So when you think about being indoors and what indoor air quality means, that's what you're breathing the whole time, there's a lot of potential for that to be unhealthy via toxins that are in furnishings, carpet, drapes, just ventilation systems that aren't linked to outdoor air, and especially new construction.
Especially new construction.
Yes.
What does that mean? I mean, they're building homes that are too snug?
They can be too snug, and they can, if it's forced air, the air isn't exchanging with the outdoor air enough, and circulating just all the toxic off-gassing from the new things in your home. That new carpet smell is a toxic smell.
Formaldehyde.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Love to kill you.
Yeah, and it's definitely carcinogenic.
Yes.
It's been proven over and over.
Yes.
It's in a lot of the products that go into new homes.
Just as a sidebar, as a biochemist, I started going berserk about 20 years ago about this issue of formaldehyde, and talked to the CDC about banning it, because I said at the point it's used as embalming fluid to stiffen human tissue. What do you think it's doing to people that breathe it? And they were like, oh, this is much too controversial, and we're just going to leave this alone. Now, I think they've done a few things, but it has not been nearly as aggressive as it needs to be, Michelle.
I agree. I learned about this about 12 years ago.
Okay, we're right on track then.
And I was really surprised that anyone would allow this to be in things that we were touching.
I know.
breathing with the off-gassing, it was amazing. And I had my couple of years where I was really concerned. I was worried. I went through the whole freak out mode.
Oh, I did too. I was older, but I really did
Yeah.
go into the freak out mode because the ability of that chemical to bind proteins in your tissue and to literally kill you. It will kill you. It's just a matter of time, but it will kill you.
And the off-gassing happens over a number of years, so it could be a rug that you got a few years ago, it's still off-gassing. Couches are notorious.
For off-gassing.
Yeah.
Because of the construct of the couch or because of the fabric?
All of the above.
Ah.
Yeah. Glues, fabrics, fire retardation, which is required by law, oftentimes is toxic. So, yeah.
I mean, like, what do you do? So as an architect, how do you design a home that is going to be breathable?
Fortunately, there are tons of alternatives. It's just that you have to know where to look.
Okay.
And lots of manufacturers are getting hip to this green movement, and they're making products that they say are green. Some are, and some are not.
Okay.
They might have one green aspect, but not totally green. And so green can be a word where something might be sourced in a more environmentally friendly way, but it can still be toxic once it comes to your home if they use this formaldehyde oftentimes with the glues. So what you would look for is, you know, either you're going to have to work with someone who's going to be able to source natural local materials.
That's what you do, right?
Yep.
Okay. That's important.
So I can help people know where to look, and we're very lucky in our city to have a store that's dedicated to this. It's called Greener Stock, and it's a woman-owned business. Heather Curlis owns this business.
And she is a nice lady.
She absolutely is. Whenever I need something and I don't know where to go to Heather, and she's up to date on what's current, and she knows how to work with different budgets. So there's products for every budget. It doesn't have to be more expensive than what you're normally going to go and buy at another store. So I've had a lot of success with even furnishing my own renovation with things, and so I've been living in them and trying them, just flooring products, paints, all of these things. Now that said, I still find that there are holes in the market, that it can be hard to sometimes find draperies, or you might feel limited when it's time to furnish and get a new piece, but
how do you find draperies? I mean, I sew. So, and I have fabric. I'm a fabric collector. So I have bolts of fabric that's aired out for years.
Yeah.
And then frankly, I have several bolts that are 10 years old and are ready to use.
Yeah, I would
I'm
say
so scared.
those are okay. I mean, if you go into a fabric store and you're looking at the new fabrics, and they might be hot that season, especially ones that are made for upholstery, you can even smell them and see if there's some sort of scent to it. And what I've tried to find in fabrics in particular, my concern is usually how do they get to me and what is their backstory. It's really hard to find organic fabrics.
Wow. Really?
Yeah, for interior decorating and design.
Okay.
And I've had this conversation with Liz McGavran.
Oh yeah, my friend Liz, yeah.
About finding organic fabrics for the interior. Because synthetic fabrics, when they're touching your skin, have the opportunity, and when you start to think about clothes, there's another hole in the market where we have a lot more room for growth, for finding organic clothing. Whatever's touching your skin, as you know, has the opportunity to be absorbed.
It will be.
Yep. And
right into your blood.
So everything you're touching. So I started to learn about these things. We talked about the freak out moment, and just when you start to break it all down, what are we touching? What's has the opportunity to enter our system through the air and through your skin? If it's not organic, if it's not sourced properly, there's potential for harm.
Yes, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge I have, Michelle, is again, I'm banker, economist, and organic biochemist. Bizarre combination, but it's worked out well because I'm keenly aware of the human body and skin and the fact that we cannot be out here just making it happen when it's making us happen.
I
And
agree.
so you're in a field where you deal with this every day.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you work through this? I know in the design work, and we got off base, but can buildings be built that are safe and breathable for consumers? I mean, you're at work more than you're at home.
Mm-hmm.
So can these workplace environments be manageable and not kill us?
Absolutely.
How? Yeah. Open air, flowers everywhere? What does that look like?
Indoor plants are definitely, I mean, they do help clean your air, but you really want to be able to have access to the outdoor air and to ventilate as much as you can.
Okay.
Especially if you're in an office building, and once you start to think about this, you might actually be in an office building where you can't open the windows.
You're correct. A lot of buildings don't allow you to open windows.
Yeah, that is not good. You need to really think about getting out of that room, not being in there most of the time, taking a break, really setting an intention to not be in that closed off air all the time if you can't control what's in that space, such as carpets and new furnishings and stuff like that. Carpet is notorious for harboring dust, and if it's new carpet, it's going to off-gas. Typically, it doesn't have to. If it's new construction, you can get something that's safe and that's green. But a lot of times, this is going to be something that's going to add to the poor indoor air quality. And sick building syndrome.
Tell me, what is that? Sick building syndrome, Michelle,
Yeah.
please.
That is probably more prevalent than you could ever imagine, and I do believe that I had this at some point. So around this time of the year, the sky starts to get gray.
Yes.
And your mood might change. And think about, how much sunlight and daylight does for our mood and our well-being. It does a lot.
Vitamin D is essential.
It is. So
Okay.
if you're working in a space or spending most of your time in a space that doesn't have access to daylight, that's part of it. Indoor air quality is a big part of it. And just, looking around your space, if it doesn't seem, to me, I just use the word human. Bring a plant in at least.
Any particular type of plant, like a bamboo plant for good luck?
Those
you're
are
gonna
great.
Need luck.
Yeah, you'll oftentimes find peace lilies. Those
Yes.
are good for indoor air quality. And if you aren't the type of person that thinks they have a green thumb, I would get one of those plants that's called a pothos plant. They just kind of trail, like kind of viney, and they'll grow even without daylight. The fluorescent light usually is enough. Yeah.
Okay, that's a pothos. Okay.
Yep.
I have to remember that.
So I just suggest, if you're in this type of environment and you're hearing my suggestions and you're saying to yourself, well, there's no way that I can do more than one of those things, you need to think about not being in that environment for extended periods of time, maybe negotiating with your employer, or even thinking about if you can work in a different space. Sick building syndrome can lead to just really decreased mood, just depression. You can, if indoor air quality is bad enough, get asthma symptoms, allergy symptoms, or worse.
Okay, so what does a person, particularly in today's climate where jobs are tight and it's hard for people to get full-time work and they're holding on to whatever they can hold on to, what can they do to control that? They can't quit their job because they need the money. So what would they do?
Well, think about anything within your routine that you can control.
Okay.
And if you are, most of us are allowed to take breaks,
Yes.
take that break outside.
Run outside, yes. And
even if it's cold
air.
out.
Yes, get out.
Yep, take that break outside. Definitely not near where people are smoking.
Yeah, definitely not. We don't want to do cigarettes.
Yeah.
That's rough, yeah.
And
Okay.
I do believe that our whole mindset, make sure that your routine is serving you, and it has
Mm-hmm.
to deal with your mindset too. And if you're feeling that low energy, bring a plant in, or even a picture that will enhance your mood. And just, if you don't have access to daylight, bring a picture that has uplifting colors in it at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's encouraging because I love art, and of course, as a gardener, I love plants. But I am concerned about the vast numbers of people who don't know any of this, Michelle. So how are you
Yeah.
educating people?
Well, I've been thinking about this longer than I had Flourish, but when I started Flourish, I knew that it was going to be more than design at some point.
Mm-hmm.
That I had seen the way that environmentally friendly design works, and it's cross-professional. You can't do it in one profession and make an impact. You have
Mm-hmm.
to reach out to the other service providers and the other people who are making local and green and environmentally friendly and just
Mm-hmm.
healthy products, and reach out to them and do this together, because the amount of awareness that hasn't reached the tipping point and come into
Yeah.
our mass understanding is amazing. There's a huge wealth of knowledge within our society, but it hasn't reached the broad public. And when I think about that and think about what people don't know,
Ah.
sometimes I get really anxious. But I've made it a part of my business model to have events and to network with the people that we can start to talk about how can we bring this to light and share this in a way that's enjoyable and fun, so that when those people learn, they're not freaking out, because that freaking out, you don't have to go through
Oh.
that.
I'll tell you, Michelle, it's day to day with Michelle
Hmm.
because 25 years ago, I was with a group of scientists, and we were talking about, at that time, in upstate New York, women scientists actually, and we were talking about the food and
Yeah.
how contaminated it was, and why they were putting chemical solvents, antifreeze, other things into food. And we just kept talking about frankenfood. I mean, really frankenfood, and what it was going to take. Could we, with information, overcome the marketing spin? Because marketing is the driver behind all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's who gets their story on television
Hmm.
or on radio or in print first. And it doesn't have to be the truth, and it rarely is. It's 20 something years ago. Fast forward today, here we are looking at young people like you that are having the same conversation. And I really would like
Hmm.
to know what can be done to move this forward. That's important.
It is important. And unfortunately, the people of my generation are still asking that question, although we're more aware than ever about the marketing potential to spread things that are not true.
The spin,
Yes.
the spin, which is you believe this stuff on television.
Hmm.
And because it's on television, it's automatically under a veil of credibility.
Hmm.
And I'm like, but that's a lie.
Hmm.
I'm not telling the truth.
You're absolutely right. And when I try and tell people, if they're like, what can I do? And I say, well, you're bringing products into your home often. And if you're not sure, you can't be sure of everything and what it does to your
You
body.
can't, right?
Look at the ingredients. If you don't know what it is,
Don't need it.
put it back on
Put
the
it back
shelf.
on the shelf. In fact, that is my mantra, which is if you learn to look at all ingredients, no exceptions. Look at what's in the product or in the commodity. And if you can't pronounce it, you probably don't need it, and let it alone.
Right, and you don't need it. And especially if it's a synthetic material and you have a natural alternative, if you're using the natural alternative, you're naturally skipping a step, because something doesn't have to be manufactured to go into it. So it's a more streamlined process. There's less momentum that has to go into it of taking away from the environment. I study regenerative design, regenerative
Tell me,
things.
what is that?
Well, a lot of things, especially the ones we spoke of, when you look at the back and there's some sort of toxic chemical in it, which when you start to look at the back of these products, they're everywhere, and you need to be very careful. Those products are most of the time made from a model where some sort of item is extracted from the earth, mined or created, and then it goes into something like, say, for example, your shampoo or your deodorant, and then you use it, and then it goes into your body, and then that piece of plastic that it came in goes into the garbage or recycle, but more often the garbage. So things that regenerate the earth would be just like that recycle symbol where the arrow keeps going around and around, where there's no waste, where the waste of something actually is fuel for something else. A good example of that is compost, and I love to compost because
I do too.
when you make that beautiful soil, you know that when
and
you
your worms.
Yep, it goes into your vegetable garden and your vegetables become even more beautiful.
Yes, yes.
So regenerative design is something that is really new to most markets, but the idea of after you use something that it doesn't go into a landfill, I feel that that's really important and a part of what we should be looking at. And when you think about it, where do your items go when they go into the garbage can? They go into a landfill.
Oh my God. And it's huge, by the way. The one here, the odor, I mean, when I drive in that area, I won't name the company because I don't want them suing me, but I am telling you, I said to one of my peers, one morning we're going to open up the newspaper or turn on the television, and that whole thing is going to blow up. And there's going to be plastic flying all over the place, and all those poor people over there are going to be dead because it's grotesque.
Yeah, and when you think about, I love nature so much, and when I think about how much land that landfills take up, it makes my heart sink, and it doesn't have to be that way. Plastic is new.
It is. It's an oil derivative. It does not have a natural home.
Right.
It comes from crude oil. It is the junk part of the crude oil, along with petroleum jelly, which I'm sure you know, mineral oil. All of those are the junk that is the result of processing crude oil for gasoline.
Yes.
And that is an absolutely toxic, frightening thing. I mean, when I tell folks, you put Vaseline on your skin, are you serious? Like, well, yeah. I said, do you know what that comes from? Do you know what the plastic comes from? These are all derivatives of an extremely nasty, gooey mineral that comes up from the earth, oil, crude oil. It's nothing nice about it. It's gunky and stinky and thick, and these are after products. Yeah.
They are, and it's toxic to create them.
I don't even know why they do it. Although, as I was sharing with a friend of mine, because I don't do Clorox, I don't do any of that kind of stuff, I said, well, you know, Clorox is mustard gas. They were like, mustard gas? I said, well, you know, after World War II, they had all these chemicals that they used in war to kill people, and they had to figure out what to do with this stuff. And I said, they just repurposed it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that happened in a lot of products that today we think are normal, that we grew up with. So I like to empower people. I think everything that you bring in your home, put on your body and put on your mouth, you should question it.
Yes.
You should question what it is, where it came from, and where it's going to go.
That's good. What it is, where it came from, and where it's going to go.
Yes.
Okay.
And I love that people are becoming really aware about voting with their dollars.
I'm so glad about that too.
That is very powerful.
I am so happy that people are beginning to get that. And I have to give kudos to pioneers, Dr. Mercola and the Environmental Working Group. These are people that just stayed the path and came up under a lot of criticism, but they were correct.
Mm-hmm.
Their assessments and evaluations were so correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we are today with people. One woman texted me yesterday and she was like, I followed your advice and I'm not using the hair shampoo, but my colorist says that's just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go back to coloring my hair and doing all this. And I texted her back and I said, it's your hair.
Mm-hmm.
You're allergic to red dye.
Mm-hmm.
Your hair will inflame again. Your scalp will inflame again. But if you trust your colorist, then you do what you need to do, madam. You're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it took a lot for me to say that, because there was a time in my life, Michelle, when I would have said, oh my God, you're going to do what? Why are you going to use color when you can get henna?
Yeah.
You know, why? But I think people just have to come to it
Mm-hmm.
painfully, but they're going to have to come to it on their own. They can listen to us, have this dialogue,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately, they're going to have to, her hair is going to be flaming red from her scalp. She'll figure it out. She'll figure it out. So
I agree, and I always try to explain these topics in a way that is, friendly and
Yes.
approachable. However, because of my attitude in that, it's an approach similar to what you've taken with this woman, is that and the addiction communities approach it in the same way, where you allow people to hit their own bottom. And sometimes someone has to get really sick in order for them to become aware. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes down to cancer and chemotherapy before people learn about what I do with the toxin-free environments and just the sustainable design. The environments we're in, you're never not in a space. That space should and could serve you. It should be beautiful. It should be healthy. It should be a place for peace of mind.
yes.
And it can't be these things if it's making us sick. And it's the bedroom we sleep in, our homes, our neighborhoods, all these things. And I'm very passionate about that. Unfortunately, a lot of people probably have to get sick before the awareness comes out even more. And I've been sick, not hugely sick, but sick enough to know, oh, this is because I'm using this product or I'm eating this way. And, questioning what I was doing and deciding not to do it, knowing that I have control over those things as much as I can and to make
Yes.
decisions. Every decision is very important. And if you think that you're just comfortable in a job working for a company, that is a choice. If you don't agree with that company, but they're serving you by paying you, that's a pretty big choice, and you might want to start to question it.
Well, that's where I kind of think we're at a tipping point in our country's story, because your generation, along with a number of us who were kind of ahead of the pack, just basically have said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. You can call me crazy, you can call me whatever, but as I tell people, I am 62 and my skin is flawless, no wrinkling, but I'm adamant about my lifestyle. And I really, Michelle, I don't want to be around people that don't get it. I don't want to be around people that smoke. I know it's an addiction. I don't want to be around people that eat fast food. I know you're addicted to polyethylene glycol. I know this because that's what's in the stuff. I know you're an addict. And I feel bad for you, but I don't want to be around you. And so I've had to take a slightly different posture, which is I have to love you from afar. We're part of the human race, and as an addict, you're going to have to go through your experience.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a bad one. Oh my God, cancer will get you. Cancer will get you. It will.
It will.
Yeah.
You will get sick, and the addiction cycle is is, unfortunately, I would liken it to an addiction cycle.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we're addicted to that shopping cycle and that marketing message and that thrill. And that can make you really sick if you're buying the wrong products.
You're right. Well, you know
So,
how I am because you are certainly a user of Shaology Organics, 100% pure products. And I know you saw a difference.
I did. I'd been exploring products for a while and I was really frustrated because I was going to the health food stores
Yes.
and looking for better skincare and I wasn't even finding it there. Just to let you know how far you have to search.
Wow.
And I did some Google searching, and when I found Shaology, to my surprise and a delightful surprise, that it was a Cincinnati-based
I
company.
know, that's funny.
So, of course, I wanted to support it, and I was really excited about this news. And it also encouraged me so much because the cities that we live in already have this wealth and network of people doing these things. And by connecting and creating momentum around it, then this awareness comes to the light because we're all, like you are and like I practice, we're all being the example.
Yes.
And I don't want to be around people that are addicted to these other behaviors either because I grew up with the standard American diet.
Uh-huh.
I grew up with all these things that were normal, and I could easily be pulled back into that.
Yes.
If I'm not in control of my environment, and just to keep the toxic influences away from me as much as possible.
Right.
It's hard
And it is a conscious effort, Michelle.
It absolutely is.
I mean, it's not something you're just going to glide in and glide out. I tell people, they say, well, how are you able to do it? I said, it's not easy. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
You know, but the alternatives for me are so horrific, you know, particularly because I have eczema and issues with my gut. And there's just no way I can't suffer. I just can't do it. I tell people I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be a part of that system. But if that's what you want to do, this is America. Go for it. Pay your doctor bills, many of them, as you age and you age sick. So my challenge, of course, with young people like yourself is I so support what you're doing. But let's talk about, you have been involved with clients. What do you bring to the table? Tell me what you do.
What I do, and I have been advertising the sustainability because that's part of what I do that's unique. But what I really do is I try and make spaces that are beautiful for that client. And beauty to me means it functions for the client of what they've asked me. They might want an outdoor space so that they can enjoy. They're outside. They might want a much better functioning interior. They might want, maybe it's a retail space. They might want the items in their retail space to look beautiful and according to their brand or attractive to customers. And when it comes to sustainability, so for me, just as design in general, it has to be aesthetically pleasing and beautiful and a wonderful space to be in, regardless of what you're getting from it being healthy for you. But in my opinion, a space that is healthy is also beautiful, and a space that is beautiful is also healthy. So they're linked.
Yes, yes.
So as a designer, I appreciate all of the beautiful design that's out there from a design standpoint. But things should also be kind to the environment, kind to the people that are in them, and serve those people. And it's not serving the people properly unless it's really kind to the environment, because the environment supports us.
Yes.
So it's like a catch-22.
Yes, it does.
So if you're taking care of the environment, sort of your foundation is good. So you can check that box. And then if the things that you brought into that space are healthy for you, then you can check that box too. So those three things. So kind to the environment, healthy for the occupants, and a beautiful space to be in. And then you can embellish from there, but that's sort of my ground rules. And so if it's an interior space, you've really got to look at that interior. Is it, you know, if you're not starting from scratch, I really try and observe where the client is in their awareness. If they're ready for me to just say, put it all in the bin outside and take it somewhere else, I'll say that, especially if they're really sick.
God, have you run into that often?
Not often,
But,
but when people do come to me, I've had a person after chemotherapy been so sensitive
oh
to
yeah,
everything
radiation.
that that person, usually that could be the tipping point for a whole family learning about toxic chemicals in our homes. And I can't spend enough time talking about how much we are surrounded in toxins and that it's a very serious concern. And the way that I work with people on that is I say, well, what pieces in here are heirlooms that might be from a time when these toxins weren't as prevalent or that may have already off-gassed that we
Yes,
can keep.
yes. Like my 10-year drapes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll work on that realm. And then you almost can't talk about that without addressing, if it's an interior, their cleaning products. And I can just say, open your cupboards, and if I see certain brands in there, we're at square one.
Yes.
But once you get those out of your home and you're using natural products, I guarantee you if you were to get a whiff of those things,
Can't happen.
you won't want it because you're used to it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You are used to that smell of that chlorine and that ammonia stuff that's just not necessary.
Right. Right. It isn't. It is not necessary. So how does a person, when they retain your services and you begin to do an environmental assessment, if we want to call it that, and most people, when approached respectfully, will look at their environment differently because they don't know what they don't know.
Exactly.
So how do you accelerate that process to where they will embrace your philosophy and make those changes? Does it have to come to cancer, Michelle?
Well, to be respectful to my clients, I usually don't go full throttle unless I have the feeling that they really need help and that they want it. And I will place my awareness level at a point where they've come to me for.
Okay.
Because it's their journey.
Yes, not yours. That's true.
And I never want to turn them away from the green movement.
No. Oh no. Well, this is the planet.
Yeah.
We're there. I mean, global warming and ozone and radiation, which of course my thing is radiation and all the things that go along with sick animals. You know, like I tell folks, you actually eat pork. Why? Oh, it tastes good. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little different. But you try to be respectful of their journey.
Absolutely.
You do, because they don't know. Again, they don't know.
And if you give it a bad name, they'll be turned off for a long time.
Yes, they will. They will be.
So because of that, and I've been thinking about this and talking about this with the other people in our industry for a few years now. And
Okay.
how do we reach this and what do we do? But I really feel that if I'm not really walking the walk, that my message doesn't have integrity, but
It does not, right?
by being that example is actually the most powerful thing that I can do. I might provide this service all day long to 100 people, but as long as I'm doing it, then I can find ways to do it better all the time. And I treat my business model that way. I'm always readdressing it, making sure that it's serving my message, and that I'm not doing something inside of that goes against my message. And being a business with this message and being in the business community, now that I've been in business for 3 years,
Yes.
I've identified the holes in the market through my design experience. There's not always furniture, not always drapes. There's not always the things that I want for my clients. I'm almost to the point where I need to create that for myself or find that and bring that to light. But throughout that business model, if I just stay the course, I will be creating something that's a very peaceful vehicle for this message to come to. With the idea in mind, I think that beauty is a communication that can reach people much easier and much better than just oh, this is a green thing, because sometimes you have to explain it. But as long as what I'm doing is beautiful, people can respond just as though they're looking at a beautiful piece of artwork.
Yes.
They might not need to understand everything that went into that, but they'll respond.
Yes.
They'll get it at another level. And then once they're drawn in, once they want to know more, then they'll want to know more about my process behind it and, you know, what links that to. And I would say a good example as far as products go, when you get into looking at products and dissecting them, it's been a trend that products have sort of certain products have a social component to them where there's some portion of giving back. So people are getting curious about certain products and where does it come from and what are the effects, who's making it, and all that. So,
and the wonderful thing, Michelle, is that Google will tell everything.
it will, and make sure you go to page 5 or 6 if something's getting a lot of good reviews.
Yes, keep going so that you can see.
Yeah.
But I will encourage people that want to know about ingredients. You got a smartphone, you can take a picture of that ingredient and then run it through Google, Environmental Working Group, or one of the more socially responsible databases.
Yep.
And you will see the toxicity. I mean, the government will tell you the toxicity report. And you can see, though, the question that people ask me all the time is, well, how do we make best decisions? And I tell them, it's a process. It's a process.
It is.
I am now at a place where I don't think I want drapes on my windows. That's major. I don't want any drapes on my windows. I just think I want to look outside. And I can work around that. And of course, you know, in the design world, I'm not a designer, that's Liz's thing, your thing. A drape is supposed to frame a room under traditional design.
Yeah.
But is that so? Does that have to always be so?
It doesn't, and that's why I have such an interest in architecture as it relates to your interior experience, because there's a lot of new construction still happening, although I believe in keeping what's working and old buildings. I'm a huge proponent of renovating old buildings.
Okay. Asbestos issues?
Asbestos is something that is a very serious concern.
Yes. You start shaking stuff up.
Yep. And well, doing a green renovation and a healthy renovation is much different than doing new construction.
Really?
Yes, and in new construction you can select all your materials from scratch and make sure that they're healthy. And say, for example, you knew you didn't want to have drapes, design the interior to be so beautiful and so functional and private enough to suit your needs so that they don't need them. And say you're trimming your window or making your opening so beautiful in that detail that you won't want a curtain. So you're starting from square one, and you're thinking about in the end, well, I'd like to avoid drapes.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So, but in old construction, we can't always do that. And especially when you're interfacing with something of historic importance.
Right.
So then there's still so much wealth of information there where you can make it healthy and as green as possible.
In an older building.
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually had the experience, and I think you saw the photograph when I decided to get new ductwork in the renovation that I was doing.
I did not see that photograph, Michelle.
Okay. I shared this with our non-toxic advocacy group.
Okay.
Well, my professional that I brought in to look at providing a new heating system for the home was talking about my ductwork, and we agreed that we would actually create a new ductwork system for this old home, which is 120 years old.
Ooh-wee, that's an old home.
So it's probably had ductwork in there for 60 years.
Untouched.
Yes.
Ah.
So and this isn't even getting into the asbestos thing.
Okay. We're just talking about ductwork
He
now.
just blasted open a duct.
Okay.
And there were 2 inches piled up of dust and pet hair laying on that surface in the ductwork that had been blowing around in that house for years and years and years.
Uh, and
And
fast forward, what happened?
I got new ductwork.
Okay.
But if you have this issue and you're not getting new ductwork, you can clean your ductwork. Just, there are services that clean these things.
Well, actually, I did have a friend of mine. She has a restoration company that's green, and I had bought a little old house after I sold my big house, and I downsized to a small house that had never, since 1930, had anything. And she said to me, Michelle, it was so outrageous I couldn't even tell you. We would have just left and never came back.
Yeah.
People didn't know.
They didn't know, and in those times, a lot of materials were made with asbestos
Gosh.
and lead,
Yes.
and those are very toxic. And the thing is, when you have a construction crew in there busting those things down,
Ooh-wee.
taking it out, it's all becoming particles in the air.
Yes, particulates.
And going
Yeah.
directly into your lungs. And manufacturers have been sued after the fact from employees creating materials like this that have gotten really ill and sometimes died young because of being around these materials. So if you're getting into a renovation and your home is more than 20, 30 years old, you probably have some of this stuff in your home. You definitely want to get it checked out. I knew that there was some of this stuff in there. Your crews are going to want to be, really protected. Fortunately, I didn't have that much in my home. It was so old that only the kitchen that had been done up a little bit had some of these things in it. And I have pictures of that room when it's just full of dust. Now, at that point, you don't want to be in the house.
Definitely not.
For a few weeks after you've done that, you want to air it out, run the furnace, however crazy you may think that is, and open up all the windows so that that's getting flushed out. Or you can even put fans and just flush out that room because you don't necessarily want to draw that through your ductwork because there it's going to continue to circulate.
May I ask you, because time is winding up and there's so much more I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about your internships in Australia, love that country, Hawaii, and others, but I want you to give your telephone number first. Do you mind? Including your area code.
Okay. My telephone number, and this goes to my cell phone, so I'm going to welcome questions about this topic because I'm passionate about it. It's 859-815-0068.
Would you say it one more time?
859-815-0068. And my website is flourishcincinnati.com.
Can you spell that?
It's FLOURISHCINNATI, flourishcincinnati.com.
Okay.
You can explore that website. You can find my email on there. You can email me questions. I'm always very open about if someone has a question. And if I can't answer it, I probably know someone who can if it's about this sort of thing. So
now, are you open for speaking engagements as well?
Absolutely. I love to talk about this. I love to just see where other people are on this topic. And it's a way for me to learn too. So I would love to speak on this for people who really want to learn. I can answer a lot of questions about sustainability and design.
Well, I want to say this, Michelle. This has been an extraordinary show. You're an extraordinary young woman. You give me hope. You give me hope. Your generation, despite what people may feel or say about your tribe, I find that you all have such a vision and a perspective about where things are going. You've seen a lot. You've grown up with a lot. And I absolutely am confident that with your vision and your understanding that the world we face is not going to be as scary as it is today. I will say to people that my generation and generations, actually after World War II, things got off kilter. Microwaves and using all kinds of chemicals and just a very way of doing business that was not very humane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're in a changing season. I didn't say it was going to be easy, but I believe that the numbers are starting to increase and people are really beginning to ask those questions. And that's all we want
Mm-hmm.
them to do is ask the question and then get an answer.
Absolutely. And just to circle back to more women in design,
Yes,
I love that, the women professionals are really getting a chance to be a balance in the market more and
yes,
more
that's good.
because they bring this perspective that is about the nurturing and thinking about things in this way. And I think that impact is powerful, and I'm happy to see that emerging.
I'm counting on it. Well, viewers, here we go again. Another phenomenal guest. Young woman, doesn't that make you feel hopeful and good? Give her a call if you can use her or you need her insight. And again, I'm hopeful in the days ahead. We're going through a cataclysmic transition in this country. A little bit overdue, but it had to come. You cannot wave your fanny at Mother Nature. Doesn't work. So on today's segment, we conclude with, as always, I'm Michelle Graves, wishing you an awesome week, stellar day. God bless you. I'll see you next time. You take care.